articles, but also to have all these videos and to show what is happening to these webinars in order to show to people and to share as much as possible practices and ideas, because many things seemingly might be very, very simple to some people, but for some other people it's not so simple, or they might not have had an idea that someone might be thinking that it's a simple idea. So there's not simple ideas, there are only good ideas, and all of us, we can actually like help each other. So I'm very, very proud to welcome today Alexandra Tosi, that she's here from the National Support Service of eTwinning in Italy and from Indire. And we have some very distinct speakers like Professor Maria Ranieri from the University of Florence, Andrea Benassi, researcher in Indire, and then some distinguished eTwinners like Marina Screpanti, Laura Maffei, and then from the Italian NSO, as I said before, Alexandra and Lorenzo. So, excuse my bad pronunciation in Italian, and I will give the floor to Alexandra. And I see someone began the recording, so everything is fine, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much,
I
Christos.
will be in the behind.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us, and we are really very happy to be here. We had already a webinar at national level discussing what has been done in Italy during the pandemic, also with the twinning and with our colleagues. But we are happy to do this at European level because it's always nice to hear also to confront with people from other countries and see what, you know, it's a nice exchange. I also had a look at the old registration of the other country focus. They were all very interesting. So as you said, we will have today Professor Maria Ranieri from the University of Florence, and she will look through the study of the Commission Joint Research Center. What did we learn from school practices during COVID-19 lockdown? And with Andrea Banassi and his group of research in Indire, they just released, I think, I don't know if you can share the link or if it's going to be published very soon, a study on the impact of the pandemic situation on didactics and on the organization in schools in Italy. So we will have this first overview of what happened in Italy during the pandemic period. And then we will try with Lorenzo and with Marina Screpanti and Laura Maffei and Lorenzo Mentuccio from the Italian NSO to see what we have done in Italy, you know, to respond to this emergency and how eTwinning has been useful in this situation. So just very quickly to see what has been the situation in Italy, just to say that the 8th of March in 2020, the school was closed, and we started with the distance learning immediately, and there was the lockdown until the end of the year. So the whole year, the school year was at distance. Then the next school year, September 2020 till June 2021, the new terminology was integrated distance learning, and pre-primary and primary school were always open, except for a few cases where the rate of infection was very high, but usually they were open. And while the secondary schools were closed for a period during the winter period, late autumn and winter, and then it was changing according to the rate of infections. And the last year, starting from September 21 till now, we still go on with integrated distance learning, but schools are open, generally open, with temporary exceptions when there is a quarantine or something that, you know, a single school or a single area or region has to close because there is a pandemic cluster. So this is just to give you the general idea, and I don't want to take more time, and I leave the floor to Maria.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Can you confirm I have 10 minutes, right?
Yes, Maria. Yes.
Okay. Christos, let me know.
Yes, we cannot hear you very well. This is just like one small issue that I have. If you can bring the microphone maybe closer to you.
Is it better now or not? It's
Yes, a
still
bit better now, yes.
otherwise I remove my
Oh,
mic.
better now.
Okay.
Now it's perfect. And also
Okay.
I will share here the link to sign in for everybody in for the event. And I'm going off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, please confirm that you can see my slides, please.
Perfect.
Okay. So, as good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you, with teachers from Europe, discussing about schooling in pandemic times, I would say. Although I hope that we are going to go over this period. But to take some benefits from this drama that we have lived, I think it's important to reflect on what happened and try to take some lesson learned for the future. In order to do it, the first task we have to do is try to better understand what has gone, and then reflect on the future and the next step. And to do so, I'm presenting today a study that has been carried out during 2020 and involving 5 European countries. And study was promoted by the JRC Center from the European Union to evaluate the impact of COVID-19 outbreak on schooling. The study was mainly based on interviews in addressing teachers, headmasters, students, parents, of course, varying the questions we asked. And the main topics were inequalities in school, access to teaching and learning materials and contents, digital and social emotional competencies, and mental health issues. Today, I will refer generally to the main results relating to the all countries involved, but I will pay a particular attention to the Italian case, of course, which I'm representing today. First of all, inequalities, the topic of inequality in school during the pandemic. And of course, what it emerged from our research was not so surprising, because we observed several differences in terms of access to the equipments, both at personal, I mean, family level and school level, as well as to access to the internet. As a general remark, in particular, teachers in Italy underlined that, in particular, headmasters underlined that funds, despite funds were, planned for supporting the families, especially the families with fragile background, to buy computers. However, the funds failed to cover the needs of all students, and you can read in the box needing support. And many children actually didn't benefit from their support, because the funds arrived with some delay. And also, as you can imagine, the access to the tools doesn't ensure the use of the tools, because the capacity, the competencies of using the tools. But there were not only, in terms of equality and inequality, not only problems related to equipments and the internet connection, but also problems in terms of giving support to students with special needs. In particular, a teacher observed that most children with disability are not able to use the computer autonomously, and have to be there when they use the computers, and this conflicted with the work life of the parents that were overcharged in this period, but from the side of the children and from the side of the job. And a teacher used precisely the expression devastating. For some children with disability, the situation proved to be devastating. This teacher highlighted another interesting thing, that is that digital technologies for teachers with disability shouldn't be taught just as tools for therapeutic use, but also as a tool for communication, which is another way of viewing the digital technologies for disabilities. And she concluded saying that despite the several words spent on accessibility, there's no commitment into remote inclusion. So she put the attention, the idea that there's an understanding of inclusion which has to do with including people who are attending a course remotely. Going to the other topic related to teaching and learning, basically all teachers agreed that for primary secondary school, the remote teaching couldn't be not a complementary activity which cannot substitute face-to-face teaching. And of course, this is we didn't need the pandemic to realize that the teaching at a distance is not appropriate for primary school, for example, or secondary school. And indeed, one lesson learned this purpose is that we should start reflecting on possible hybridization, blending between in the future between in presence and distance education, in order to take benefits from both the way of teaching and learning. However, it was interesting some remarks that made by some teachers. For example, the importance of organizing students in small groups for synchronous activities, especially for primary school students. The teacher said that it didn't make sense keeping all the students in front of a screen for hours all together, and so the small group, collaborative group, cooperative group is the best way to engaging the students during the teaching online. But of course, this means this entails to revise the organization of the group class. This entails to reshape the way how the students are organized. And also another I think another relevant comment that I've gathered during my research came from a school leader from Sicily, who underlined that teaching in presence teaching, it's totally different from online teaching. So he underlined that for me, as you can read in the box, it was fundamental to make teachers understand that remote teaching was very different from in-person lessons, and therefore it could not be done in the same way. So the school leaders spent some time with the teachers to encourage them to redesign their courses, redesign interaction, redesign the contents, redesign, in a word, the curriculum, and if we are still somehow blaming DAD, in Italian we say DAD, meaning remote teaching. So if from one side we are blaming remote teaching, or the other side we should ask whether we really did the best to deliver online teaching during the pandemic. We cannot just transfer a traditional practice into this different setting, which is the web. As far as competencies, it's interesting to observe that on one side, all agreed about the fact that the teachers, the students, the family didn't own the appropriate digital competencies to attend online teaching, to learn online, or to support the children to attend online courses. But at the same time, both the teachers and students and the family observed an increase in students' digital competence, and more generally in teachers and families' digital competencies. Somehow, this experience push the learning about technologies and the digital among all the stakeholders involved in the schooling. Another interesting aspect refers to motivation. Of course, several studies and scholars, but also in the public debate, it is underlined that motivation went down during the remote teaching, so during the period of pandemic. Somehow online interaction, online school is perceived as demotivating, frustrating. So many scholars and also families and teachers are reclaiming presence because students feel more motivated. But at the same time, I want to give you maybe an idea of the richness of the possibilities that doing teaching differently may open. And in particular, some teachers in Italy and around Europe used the word flourished to indicate the new behavior shown by some students during the pandemic, in the sense that some students, far from the eyes of the peers, felt less, anxious about their performances in school. Therefore, even some students with difficulties such as dyslexia felt an increased serenity in expressing themselves, and in this sense they literally flourished compared to other periods. And now to conclude the topic of evaluation, which was viewed as a big challenge all over the Europe. Teachers underlined that the most difficult task was precisely evaluating students' learning outcomes, as well as providing feedback during the lectures, because of the several obstacles which prevented direct interaction or the possibility to have a direct contact through the eyes with the students. But at the same time, I have to say that the issue of evaluation revealed also some limitation in the way how generally is meant the act of evaluating in the Italian school, which is mostly associated to controlling the students rather than valuing what they have learned. From this point of view, I think that beyond remote teaching, we should take the lecture of moving towards a more formative way of understanding evaluation, shifting the emphasis from the control to the formation and the education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much for being in time and for being able to go so quickly, to direct to the point and to take out the most important and most interesting issues. I think we will leave the question to the final discussion. But of course, if you have any question right now, you can always write in the chat. And in the meantime, I will leave the floor to Andrea.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm starting to share my slides.
Yeah, we can see your slides. Perfect.
You will see it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrea Benassi. I'm a research technologist at INDIRE, the National Institute for Educational Technology, Educational Development in Italy. And in 2021, we did a survey among the Italian teachers to study the situation, because starting from 2020 and the spring lockdown, we have in front of us a completely different school, a completely different situation. That's what convinced us to start a survey among Italian teachers. First of all, in 2020, in the previous school year, during the lockdown in Italy, all the schools closed from March to May 2020, and we published a report last year about this first stage of pandemics, and then we started a new survey in 2020 and 21 to recognize a sort of different situation, because in the following school year, Italian schools were in a different situation. The school started to open in September, and there was a word in Italy, didattica digitale integrata, that is sort of digital integrated teaching, that is different from DAD, didattica a distanza, remote teaching, that had happened in the spring lockdown 2020. In the 2020 and 21 school year, the situation was different and very variable, because there were some decisions during the school year made by the ministry, made by the Prime Minister in Italy, and so schools were facing different situations. September was different than October, than December, and so on. And our task was more difficult, because we have to follow these changes in schools and try to figure a picture of this school year. These were the research questions. What teaching and organizational practices has your school implemented during the school year? And the teachers were answering. And which of these have the potential to be generative for the post-pandemic schools? So what will remain after these pandemics in the school? And the teachers were 2,546 answering from primary and secondary schools, and they answered to an online questionnaire on a sample basis. They were representative of the entire Italian school teachers population. In a two-stage sampling, first the school and then randomly the teachers inside the schools. And this online questionnaire was administered between 17 March and 30 June 2021. And then there are the dimensions taken into account from the teaching methods to the assessment methods to digital resources employed to the spaces, infrastructures, and technologies, the professional development of teachers, organization and school leadership, and collaboration and networking. And this is one of the first answer. There were sort of 60 answers to the teachers. So today I'm showing a small sample of them. This is the first. Which of these scenarios did you use in the school year 2020-21 and how much? We thought about 4 different scenarios. Of course, the first 2 are the most common, and the presence, the normal school, and the distance school. Then there is the hybrid scenario and the alternate scenario. And the hybrid scenario is when you have some students at school together with you and some students from home, maybe because of a quarantine. And then there is the 4th scenario, the alternate one, in which students come to school on Sunday, on Monday, and the other half of the class come on Tuesday. So there are different students in the classroom in different days or different weeks, for example. And this is the alternate scenario. When we started thinking about this different scenario, they had to be more clearly recognized by the schools, because in September 2020, schools were expected to restart the presence even with hybrid and alternate scenario for distance reasons, for the distanciamento. And then the things messed up a bit because of the changes by the prime minister during the winter and the autumn. So in a way, the difference between presence and distance, hybrid and alternate, sort of blurred, because it is difficult to say if that schools were doing an alternate scenario because of the design of their by design, or because the event were following and the situation was changing. And so I think that for most teachers it has been difficult to say if they were doing presence and distance or alternate scenarios. And well, this is about the perception of teachers about the learning of their students with the integrated digital learning, how it affected the students in the following respect: academic achievement, autonomy or responsibility, quality of interaction, and quality of attention, and motivation and engagement. As you can see, all these dimensions, in the opinion of teachers, worsened. They were very few teachers said that this dimension were improved. You can see that autonomy and responsibility is the dimension that for 1/3 more or less of the teachers in primary school were improved. But you can see that the blue color is the more diffuse in this graph, and it is a worsening situation perception of worsening in the schools, in the primary schools, and then in the secondary schools, first grade, and then in the secondary school, second grade. It is important to notice that in the first survey in 2020, autonomy and responsibility were mostly improved in the perception of the teachers, but in the following school year, the sense of worsening is the most. Also about the autonomy and responsibility. And then there are the teaching resources. What teaching resources did you use in this during the pandemics? You can see a list of teaching resources. I will put the accent to the fourth one, the self-produced content for the lessons, and also the self-recorded video lessons for the class. In a way, one of the main news about the school in the pandemics is that teachers started to produce videos, produce content more than before. Here, a quarter of teachers self-recorded video lessons for the class, and in most cases, it is something that they didn't used to do before the pandemics. I think this is the most important outcome of this answer, because I think this could remain after the pandemics. Teachers recording video lessons, not just performing in the class, but recording video lessons. This opened up the field to a lot of possibility, because, for example, exchanging lessons from teachers, and of course, overcome the synchronicity in the remote teaching, because teachers record their lessons and students can watch them in different times. This is the primary school, and then we have the secondary school, first grade, and then there is a secondary school, second grade. You can see the difference, but the trend is more or less the same. And then we have the technologies. What types of technologies, technological application have you used with your students for distance learning? And here the new entry starts at the first place in the previous survey. All-in-one platform for the schools was not even in the 10th place, and then it is the first in more or less 1 year. 80% of Italian schools have an all-in-one platform. I mean Microsoft 365 or Google Suite for the schools, and so on. Platforms that comprehend all the main and the basic functions of remote teaching, something like, of course, video conference application, and sharing documents, and this is the most diffused kind of technologies today in the Italian schools, and is a sort of a gift from the pandemic, because they were not so diffused before the pandemics. And then we have another data, another answer, interesting, because we asked how many of your students have the following requirements for attending your distance lessons. And here, the most important data is that technologies are not the main issue. Domestic spaces are. There were more technologies, there were more internet connection than proper domestic spaces, not shared with too much people, with too many people, and so on. So, in the opinion of teachers, the main issue of the students in distance lessons is not technology, is not internet, is proper domestic spaces. And then I will close my speech with a very predictable answer from the teachers is how much of the experience of the pandemic helped you to improve your technological skills. Of course, in every school level and grade, pandemics, the experience of the pandemics helped a lot to improve the technological skills. Okay, I'm at the end, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It was really very interesting. And actually now, if we manage to recover the also Maria Ranieri, maybe we can ask our participants if they want to know something about, in particular, about how it went in Italy, how things were in Italy in this period, before we start to see together what we have done as eTwinning Italy. I don't know if you have any other question. Okay, Maria, now I can see you. Okay, I think now you should be back again. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat to ask anything. Okay, otherwise we can move on, and we leave the questions till the end, and we go on with analyzing together what we have done as NSO Italy with Lorenzo Mentuccia.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you, Alex. I work as a communication officer for eTwinning NSO, as Alex said. And let's see this brief overview about what the NSO in Italy did and the impact of the activities to face this pandemic, especially focusing on 2020. Let me share the presentation. Hey, let's see this first overview in terms of new enrolled teachers in 2020, especially focusing on March and compared March 2020 to March 2019. You can see very clearly the increase, the huge increase in terms of new enrollment. Only in March, we got more than 2,300 new teachers enrolled in eTwinning. That means that eTwinning was seen like an opportunity and a help in order to keep to go on and to get tools and resources to face the pandemic and the remote teaching. These are some KPI that we used in order to measure the impact of our activity. We, as communication, we tried to convey the main message that eTwinning was still going on, and it was helpful for teachers, and it could represent an opportunity in order to face the pandemic. And this message was under every activity that we set up during this period. The website, the national website, scored more than 190,000 total views in 2020. This is an increase of more than 60% compared to 2019. And this impact was reflected also on social networks, with more than 2.5 million people reached. You can see from the graph the increase, especially in 2020. And another very huge impact we registered in the press coverage. National press coverage means the number of articles published on eTwinning in national broadcasting. This is, as you can see, more than 100% of increase compared to 2019. That means that more than 800 news have been published during the year, which is basically the double from 2019. And this helped us in order to reach not only the national press, I mean big broadcasting, but also local press, which had a huge impact in the media outreach and in getting in touch with the teachers. Going on, we can see the initiative that this is a summary of the initiative that we set up as a NSO. We built this landing page, which is a sort of collection of all the activities that we launched. It is in Italian, but here you have the direct link. You can visit and get inspiration. We organized a series of webinars with experts during the period, during the first part, the first half of 2020, together with experiences. Experiences means the focus on particular best practices carried out by teachers during the pandemic. And so we collected some best practices from teachers and published it in a special section of our website. We launched also a social network campaign, and we see in details in the next slides what it means. And inside the platform in eTwinning Live, we launched an eTwinning group about with a lot of resources and materials, especially used by teachers in order to face the pandemic and the remote teaching. And about that, Marina and Laura will speak in depth afterwards. And these resources was used to publish an eTwinning book, which is a sort of wrap-up of what the group was, of the impact of the group and the outcomes. About the online training, we involved around 3,000 participants, and we launched 18 webinars, 10 specifically addressed to the SOS. I mean, we call this SOS initiative because was launched in order to give a very quick support with experts to the teaching and the didactics issues, and the regular webinars which involved around 1,000 participants. Regular means that they were not extra. They were not addressed to the emergency, but they were related to our standard calendar of training. We get more than 10,000 visualization of recordings. This is I mean, something that it's more than the live streaming participant, of course. And the experiences were collected through a specific folder, an online folder that we shared with teachers that has direct experience during the lockdown. We started from Codogno, which was the very first zone in Italy, red zone, with a teacher that shared her experience in the very first phase, first step of the pandemic, and we collected in order to be to share these experiences and best practices and give some inspiration to other teachers. And this is an example of the section of the national website. They are they can be sorted by school level, key competencies and subjects. And inside inside each folder there is an overview on the activity, on the teaching activity, with videos and multimedia materials as well. For social network, we launched this special campaign, eTwinning non si ferma, which means eTwinning doesn't stop, with the creation of stories asking the teachers, the eTwinning teachers, to share pictures from home during the work from home. And we collected more than 300 pictures with a strong impact, as you can see, in the reach and the followers of our Instagram channel, because this this campaign was launched on Instagram, basically. And this is the chart of the impact of the campaign, which was concentrated especially in April and May 2020. And we were able to collect the best pictures shared in a calendar that we used during events and make it available on the website, like a nice outcome for classes. The eTwinning group was the parallel activities inside the platform, with over 1,400 members active since March 2020, and it was structured per different school level, and so it was a peer-to-peer activities in order to create networking and sharing of experiences, as I said, online events and forums, and in order to support the community. And this was the result of the activities of the group, which is available as well in a new website and in the section SOS. And it's an ebook which is a sort of collection of different project activity that can be easily taken and adopt to different contexts, and it's sorted by different by level, school level, as you can see. Another
Lorenzo, you should try to.
Yeah, this is my last one slide. This is the lesson learned in order to the organization of events during the 2020. We had our first national conference in streaming, and it was for us as NSO a very best practice that change our way in order in the way we organized the conferences. We got more than 600 live streaming attendees and more than 5,000 views on YouTube, and this was something that was very appreciated by our audience. So the pandemic brought to us a new perspective in terms of new way in terms of the events organization. It was really important, and this in the previous year 2021 we again repeated the organization through a blended way. So, in synthesis, this is the way we try to summarize our success in terms of activities, the quick response of materials, and in terms of resources, a great support by ambassadors and regional eTwinning representatives, especially in the group, and the big visibility on national media with the support of the Indire press office, and the general growing reputation and credibility of eTwinning that for sure was perceived as a very strong opportunity and help for teachers during that emergency. Thank you. In case of questions, don't hesitate to write.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you very much. So I think I leave the floor immediately to Maria Chiara Screpanti and Marina Screpanti, sorry, and to Laura Maffei, our very good and expert ambassadors for Abruzzo for Toscana, and I will talk about the point of view of the teachers and the point of view of the students, what happened in this period. Sorry if you're a bit late. I think we will, if it's okay with Christos, stay 10 minutes longer if it's okay with you.
Okay, so Alexandra, I go?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Marina Screpanti. I'm an eTwinning ambassador and a teacher. I'm a primary school teacher. I'm talking to you about what happened during the first lockdown. In March 2020, there was the first lockdown, an unexpected lockdown. So teachers and schools had to face a new situation, an unexpected situation. That means organizing the teaching in an online. So the Italian eTwinning National Agency proposed to the ambassadors the creation of a group of support for Italian school teachers, but not just for eTwinners, but also for teachers who were not eTwinners at the moment. In fact, the group is open. So we analyzed the teachers' needs, considering also the needs of our colleagues. So some of them had just a few competencies in ICT, or they didn't know platforms, web tools useful for teaching and learning in a remote way. And some of them had a few competencies in the use of the ICT in the teaching process. So maybe they use the ICT for personal purposes, for example, for speaking in social, or for shopping online, but they didn't know how to use the ICT in the teaching process. And they just translated the lesson in presence in a distance learning and teaching one. And it was, you can imagine the results. So some of them need help in the creation of the lesson and the creation of the materials to really engage and motivate students. Maria Ranieri before talked about the fact that students needed to be motivated and engaged to really participate in the lessons. So some teachers needed ideas in order to develop these learning lessons, having a look at good practice. in order to let students actively participate, collaborate with teachers and among them, discuss, create, plan, propose, develop competencies with not just knowledge. So we, in a few days, we opened a group, a friendly group, which was very informal, because at that moment we had no immediate instruction from the minister. It was just something that each school organized by itself. And it was a sort of peer learning. So we used the peer learning because we were teachers who shared ideas and competencies with other teachers. And we were the organizers, yes, but we learned from other teachers who took part in this group. So the intention of the group was to put teachers in contact, sharing ideas and experiences, materials, good practice. And we did that like we normally do with recipes. So we described the ingredients, so the competencies, the objectives of the lessons, the target, the learning process, the teaching process, obviously, and until the evaluation moment, because the evaluation moment, as we saw before, it was a really great challenge for teachers. And then we also talked about the difficulties that teachers and students could face, and obviously all the teaching and learning process from planning to evaluating. And then the intention was also to answer questions, doubts, fears. So we focused on teaching how to really engage students in the distance learning. And that's why, because we, like eTwinners, normally have distance learning teaching, because eTwinning is a platform where we are in touch with other classes remotely. So collaboration, engagement, participation of students are our criteria, the main criteria. The SOS group structure, the group was called SOS Didattica a Distanza, which means remote learning. At the first part, with the minister documents, a focus on distance learning, so what distance learning is and what it is not. Then eTwinning gets, and it's a distance learning method, and then a lot of links, tools, useful tools. And then there are, because the group is still visible, 4 macro areas, one dedicated to nursery school, the other to primary school, the other one to first grade secondary school, and the other one to second grade secondary school, with 2 or 3 ambassadors per area. And in each macro area, you can find links and tools, examples of distance teaching and learning with a repository. I'm talking about lesson ready to use that teachers could take just to have an idea, or could really use in their distance learning teaching. And then in each macro area, also forum threads with questions, etc. And then a very important part of this group is there were the webinars, a part dedicated to webinars with eTwinners sharing competencies about everything, methods or web tools, and experts. And there is a repository with 38 webinars. And then a sportello amico, which is called like a friendly window, with an ambassador, Domenico Marino, always available every week to answer the questions of teachers. The numbers are 1,894 teachers in the group, 38 webinars, 9 forum threads, and 45 examples of lessons ready to use. And all these experiences that you can find in the group, in the SOS group, has been published in the ebook that Lorenzo showed before, with all the resources presented in the repository. I think that, Alessandra, I was very, very fast.
Thank you, Marina. Sorry for the last ones are always a bit sacrificed, it's true.
No,
But,
don't
I
worry,
think
but I said everything.
yes, it was really great, straight to the point and what was needed. I think really the important thing of this, the added value was one that we started immediately, like the 8th of March, the school closed, and we opened the group the 18th of March. So really immediately, before any other formal structured help was organized. And then the fact that it was led by you ambassadors, so it was really peer learning, and it was really very important that the teachers helping other teachers, which is the heart of the twinning at the end. So let's move to Laura, so we have a perspective also from the student point of view.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm closing this event. So first of all, thank you for reaching to the end. And I'm trying to think about the whole pandemic experience from a different point of view. When thinking back to what we did, I try to think about what we learned. So is something that I did that can be still useful to me, to my students, and to you now. So I want to start with something totally different with you who are listening. So think back, try to forget the pandemic, if you can, for a while. Think back of your own school experience. What's your most vivid teenage school memory? So think back, think of your school life. What's your best school memory? Something you remember particularly well. Okay, think about it, relive it in your mind and put it aside. It will get useful to us later. And then, okay, back to the pandemic. I'm going to tell you something very quickly about my experience of teaching in a pandemic. I have about 5 minutes, so I think I won't be boring. I hope so. So what's the need? The first need you have when you teach in the pandemic. The first need you have is to meet your students in a safe and familiar place. You have heard of what has happened in Italy and I think everywhere in Europe. From one day to another, there was no school in presence. So we actually said goodbye, see you tomorrow, and then suddenly the next day there was no tomorrow. I had a last class with my students. This means that they were supposed to have their final examination at the end of the year and then move to a different school. And we never met again as a class. So from time to time, I meet them now, maybe on the street, and they always tell me about that year that didn't finish, which is horrible because we felt this experience of something that was not closed properly, not finished. And we were upset at the very beginning. What did we need? As Marina said, and as the other speakers said, most schools didn't have an online platform for teaching online and learning online. Actually, my school had one. We used Moodle, which of course is not supposed to be used with young kids. We are a primary and lower secondary school. So we couldn't use that, and we used the online register. But the online register is useful to assign, I don't know, homework, to give homework, and then to receive them. Every student works on his own, on their own, and you are not a class anymore. What we needed was to keep the sense of community, and what can be useful now as well. Keep the sense of community and avoid dropping out. So first need have them together, and together as a class, not as individuals. First aim, avoid losing students, dropping out. So what did we do? We were together with all the ambassadors in the area. We are very lucky in Tuscany. We are a very close-knit group. We work together with each other very well, and we turned to eTwinning to the twin space because our students worked with eTwinning, were used to working in eTwinning. So we had this idea of creating a twin space, creating a project, which is a very, maybe a strange use of eTwinning, because eTwinning is not supposed to be used among students of the same class, but we put all of them together. We are ambassadors working in different areas of Tuscany, different school levels, and we created a twin space all together. And it is not me closing the presentation, but you can listen to me at the end. It's not a problem. And we worked with each other, and we created a twin space that we used as a virtual classroom. I think that this can be useful today as well, to create a space where your students can work with each other. And if you go back to your school memories, you will understand that what we remember well in our past school experience is experiences. I am sure that if you think back to your school experience, what you remember is not a lesson, not any lesson. It is a school trip or an episode with a funny episode with your classmates, or I don't know, something you did with a teacher that understood you or spoke to you, or something funny that happened in your class. So what we retain from school is the experiences we shared with others. So something we did, and usually something we did with somebody else. My students, the students of the last class that didn't end together, they lost this. And most of our students still lose this opportunity of doing things together, because we are together today as well, frozen in our desks without the possibility of any collaboration. We are together, but we are isolated because we cannot move, because we have to wear our masks, because we cannot touch each other. We don't want our students to lose this dimension, and we must give students the opportunity to experience, collaborate, share, meet our students online. And that's what eTwinning is for. And I have learned this through collaborations with other eTwinners and with our other ambassadors. I think that collaboration and experiences is what eTwinning is made of. So thank you, everybody. That's all.
Thank you,
leave the word to Alex.
No, I think you two really went to the heart of the question, of the issue, and I see a lot of hearts commenting your final statements. Yeah, I really think that there was, I mean, the students are the heart, of course, of project, and the heart of the school at the end. So even the heart of eTwinning, even if we usually talk and deal more with teachers, but of course it's them at the end, our final goal. So I don't know if you have any question. Of course, you are more than welcome to share them in the chat. But I think we went a little bit too long, and so I think we can close it here. And I really want to thank all the speakers and all of you. We are still 150, around 150, around even 15 minutes late. So thank you for staying with us. And I really think it was very interesting. And I thank all the Maria and Andrea, Laura, Marina, and Lorenzo for being so interesting speakers today. And thank you, of course, for Christos for hosting us and the CSS.
Thank you very much from me as well. It was great and well done to everybody. And we need this kind of teachers and experts as well. So good night to all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.